Hello and welcome, dear lovely students. I hope you're all doing great. Today we have a new subject in chapter 1, section 2. It is multiplying and dividing square root expressions, page 8. In the previous class we have explained square roots, and also we have explained perfect squares. Today we have multiplying and dividing square root expressions. Before we, let's say, get into detail, there are some important rules. We have to know them. The first one, it says if a and b are two positive integers. Why do we say positive integers? Because our subject is, let's say, square root, and the radicands here, the numbers here, cannot be negative. That's why we say a and b are two positive integers. Then the first rule, it says the square root of a times b is equal to square root of a times square root of b. It means if you have a square root of the product of two numbers, for example, say 4 times 6, okay? We can give the square root, let's say, to both numbers. Distribute the square root to 4 and also to 6. Then we can write the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. What did we do in this step? We gave the square root to 4, multiply, and to the 6. That's why we can separate the square root for both numbers. We have that example, say the square root of 9 times 4. So we can write the square root of 9 times the square root of 4. The square root of 9 is 3 times the square root of 4 is 2. Then it's going to be 6. Also, if you have, let's say, square root of 3 times the square root of 2, this time the square root is, let's say, they are separated, we can write them as one square root. 2 times 3. This is for multiplication. Second rule, this is the second rule. It says the square root of a squared is equal a, or square root of a, all of them squared, is equal a. It means if you have, let's say, square root of a number power 2, okay, then the square root and power 2 cancels, then is equal the number, okay? The square of, let's say, 100 square power 2. Cancel the square root and the power 2, then only 100 left. So this is the rule. Or it says the square root of 4, or let's say 9. Okay, all of them power 2, again power 2 and square root cancel, then 9 left. Okay, this is about the second rule. The third rule is for dividing. It says a divided by the square root of a divided by b is equal square root of a divided by the square root of b. Again, as the product formula, we can distribute the square root for both of them. It means, let's say you have square root of 12, okay, over square root of 3. Then we can distribute the square root for numerator and denominator. It's going to be the square root of 12 over square root of 3. Or we can do vice versa. If the square roots are, let's say, separated, we can write it as one square root. So this property is true for dividing, let's say, division and multiplication. The last rule, the last formula is square root of a times square root of a is equal a. For example, the square root of 2 times itself, the square root of 2 is equal 2. Okay, so this is the last rule. Then we have another definition. It says simplest form. What is simplest form? A square root expression is in the simplest form if the radicand has no factor which is perfect square. I'm going to write two examples. We have the square root of 13, okay, or let's say write the square root of 15 and the square root of 12. Let's see which one is in the simplest form. For 15, if you want to write the factors of 15, then it's going to be 3 times 5. You can see that none of the factors is perfect square. 3 is not perfect square. 5 is not perfect square. Then you cannot simplify it. So the square of 15 is in the simplest form. Or let's write another example. Let's say we have 35. Then 35, it comes from 7 times 5. Okay, neither 7 nor 5 is, let's say, perfect square. Then this number is in the simplest form. But for 12, it's different because we can write 12 as 4 times 3. Okay, 4 is perfect square. Then the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. The square root of 4 is 2. And square root of 3 stay as it is. This is the result. We had the square root of 12. We simplified. We got 2 square root of 3. So the square root of 12 is not in the simplest form. Okay, let's start with the examples. It says simplify. First one, we have the square root of 12. Maybe ask that question, 12, we can write 3 times 4. We can write 2 times 6, and also we have 1 times 12, but we can ignore that because we don't need it. It's going to be the same number. We have 3 times 4, 2 times 6. Okay, you ask that question. Why didn't we choose 2 times 6? Okay, to write the square root of 12, okay, as 2 times 6. That's a good question. Even if you write the square root of 12 as 2 times 6, okay, we cannot work with it. Why? Because 2 and 6, none of them is perfect square, then we cannot simplify it. Always we are going to choose the, let's say, the product, the factors that they have, one of them have perfect square, they have a square root, okay? For example, 12, it's going to be 4 times 3, the square root of 4 is 2, and 3 stays under the square root. For 18, we have 3 times 6, and also we have 2 times 9. Okay, which one do you choose? 3 times 6 or 2 times 9? Of course, 2 times 9, because 9 is a perfect square. We can find the square of 9. But 3 and 6, none of them is perfect square. That's why we did not choose it. Then the square root of 18, we can write 9 times 2. Then, by the rule, it's going to be the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3 square root of 2. This is the solution. Later we have C, the square root of 5 times the 5 times square root of 24. There's an important note. You have to know that when you have, let's say, 2 square root 3, it means 2 times square root 3. 2 times square root of 3, but we have removed the multiplication sign, then it became 2 square root of 3. So right now, here we have 5 times square root of 24. Then for 24, we have 3 times 8, 2 times 12, 4 times 6. Okay, so which one do you choose? 3 times 8, 2 times 12, or 4 times 6? Of course, 4 times 6, because 4 has a square root. 4 is perfect square. Then 5, then it's going to be 4 times 6. 5 square root of 4 times square root of 6. Then write down 5. We said that here it is 5 times. 5 times. The square root of 4 is 2, then times the square root of 6. 5 times 2. 5 times 2 is 10, square root of 6. Square root of 6. Another example, the square root of 12 times the square root of 3. The square root of 12 times the square root of 3. This question has 2 ways, okay, to solve. The first way is easy. It says the square root of 12 times the square root of 3. We have explained in the beginning of the class. We said that if you have, they have, let's say, multiplied, we can write them as 1 square root. So it's going to be 12 times 3, then it's going to be 36. The square root of 36 is 6. Maybe you have another idea. Okay, you do not remember that way. You are going to say, I'm going to write 12 as 4 times 3 times the square root of 3. The square root of 4 is 2 times square root of 3 times square root of 3. Okay? Then square root of 3 times square root of 3, square root of a times square root of a is equal a. Square root of 3 times square root of 3 is equal 3. Times 2 is equal 6. So you get the same result. But maybe you do not remember that way, or let's say you forget that way, then you are free to choose any of them. Question E, square root of 5 over 9. It's quite clear 5 has no square root, so it stays same. Then square root of 9 is 3. The result is square root of 5 over 3. F, we have square root of 45 divided by square root of 20. They are not perfect square. We have to simplify them. 45 is 9 times 5. Even you have 3 times 15, but you cannot choose it because 3 and 15, none of them has square root. For 20, we can write 4 times 5. Then it's going to be square root of 9 times square root of 5. Square root of 4 times square root of 5. So right now we can cancel square root of 5, cancel it. The square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 4 is 2. So it is 3 over 2. In the beginning, if you look at the question, maybe you think that's let's say difficult, but it's not difficult, it's quite easy. Also we have G, it says 75. The square root of 75, square root of 75. So 75 is 25 times 3. 25 is going to be 5. 3 stays under the square root. And the last example is this example that they bring it in the book. It says find the area of the square. We have a square here. It says find the area. Maybe you think that this question is not related to subject, it's related to geometry, but it's not related to geometry, it's related to our subject. Because the area of a square is equal S times S, or you can say S squared. Okay, S times square. What is S? S is a side length. So here we have, this is 6 square root 5. Then area, it's going to be 6 square root 5 times 6 square root 5. So 6 times 6, it's going to be 36. Multiply. Square root of 5 times square root of 5, it's going to be 5. Then 5 times 36, it's going to be 180 centimeter square. So be careful with these type of questions. Then we have some اجتماعي questions. The first question says square root of 18 over square root of 2. 2 has no perfect, let's say it's the simplest form. Then 18 is going to be 9 times 2 over square root of 2. Then the square root of 9, the square root of 9 is 3, square root of 2, 2 stays under the square root, and also square root of 2 in the denominator. Square root of 2 and 2 cancel, then 3 remains, the result is 3. Next question, 2 square root of 3 times square root of 12. It's going to be, we have solved this question before, 2 times 3 times 12. 2, it's outside the square root, stays there. Square root of 3 times square root of 12, we can write 3 times 12. Then it's going to be 2 square root of 36. Then it's going to be 2 times the square root of 36 is 6. 2 times 6 is 12. So C is the correct answer. Then we have question 3. Again, it's is the same type with question 2. 3 square root of 5 times 15. So 5 times 15, it's going to be 75. Then 3 square root of 75. And you know that 75 is 25 times 5. And this is going to be 3 times square root of 25 is 5. 5 stays under the square root. 3 times 5 is 15 square root of 5. Then the correct answer is C. Question 4, which value is written as simplest form or in the simplest form? How do you know that they are written in the simplest form? We know that 25 is equal 5, so it's not in the simplest form. 32 is 16 times 2. 16 is going to be 4 square root of 2, so it's not in the simplest form. Negative square root of 49. 49 is 7 times 7, then it's going to be negative 7. It's not in the simplest form. The only one is 7 times 5. Okay, none of them is a perfect square, that's why the square of 35 is in simplest form. Question 5, the simplest form of 2 times square root of 3 times square root of 18. Again, it is 2 square root of 3 times 8. Then it's going to be 2 square root of 24. And 24, it's going to be 4 times 6. The square root of 4 is 2 times 2. Okay, and square root of 6. Then it's going to be 4 square root of 6. This is the result. Okay. So the correct answer is 4 square root of 6. It is B. Question 6, multiply. We have solved this question before. 2 times 18 is going to be 36. Okay, then 36 is going to be 6. So the answer is D. Question 7, it says divide square root of 45 divided by square root of 20. We have this question in the previous examples. The answer was 3 over 2. Then question 8, it says which expression is written in the simplest form. Again, 49 is not in the simplest form because it's going to be 7. 36 is going to be 6. The only one is square root of 13 because 13 is 1 times 13. Then it is in the simplest form. The last question, or before the last, the second question to the last, it is 75, okay, over 3. Then we have 2 ways to solve that question. I'm going to show you both ways. The first way is 75, the square of 75 over the square of 3. We have the division, or the, let's say, fraction here. It's a division. 75 divided by 3. We can write them as 1 square root. 75 divided by 3. It's going to be square root of 25, and it's going to be 5. This is what one of the solutions, the first solution. Or the second one, 75 over the square root of 3 is equal. And instead of 75, we can write 25 times 3. Then the square root of 25 is 5 square root of 3. Square root of 3 and square root of 3 cancels. Then 5 left. This is the answer of that question both ways. So the answer is 5. You are free to choose any of them. The last question, it says 18 square root of 80 divided by the square root of 25. We know that the square root of 25 is 5, but for 18 we are going to write 16 times 5. The square root of 16 is 4, and 5 stays under the square root. Then it is 4 over 5 square root of 5. The correct answer is A. Okay, dear lovely students, this is the end of our class. I hope you get benefit from me. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.